Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast, where industry leaders share their insights, 6 questions in 9 minutes, because hackers never sleep. Let's do it. Side note, this is the legalese of this podcast. This is not a sponsored podcast by anyone. This is for our network. So, Paige, question number 1, few sentences. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, hey, Rick, I'm Paige. I am currently a privacy analyst for a contractor in the DC area. So what I do is I look at a system, and a system for privacy analyst is not just the computer, it's just the bigger picture of the program function and how the system, the technology achieves that goal. And I look at that from a step-by-step basis and say, and just look for ways that PII might be accidentally collected when it doesn't need to be, or disseminated when it doesn't need to be, just things like that. Basically, my goal is to reduce the use of PII across the agency that I'm working with.
Interesting. I'm gonna throw the first side question in.
Okay.
How did you get involved in this type of position?
This is actually a pretty interesting question. So I, as you know, but our audience might not, you and I used to work together. We work together in a forensics field, but we also have a couple of people that we know kind of who do privacy related stuffs. And so one of them actually happens to be a teammate of mine, and we happen to be going to we happened to be on our way to a game in Frederick, Maryland, and she was telling me about it. And I initially dismissed this field because I was like, no, this isn't what I want to do. But the more she told me about it, the more it felt like a natural fit for me and my expertise and my background. So I went from our company and kind of branched off into the privacy realm. So that's where I landed. Yeah, it was a little bit of networking.
Perfect. The reason I asked that is because I wanted you to talk about that networking piece. You had talked to me about that before. Mm-hmm. It is this network that really is the core of why we do the podcast. So people realize that if you want to look into a new industry like privacy, you should just reach out to people. People will help you get there. So question number 2, what's the best thing about being a cyber and IT professional?
Oh my gosh, it's just ever changing. Privacy is really new. So it's exciting in that you get to look at everything from a privacy focus. Please excuse me, my cat is going to break my okay. My apologies. When she's hungry, she likes to move the automatic feeder and move it over.
Nice.
My neighbor yells at me a lot for it. Okay, so what's the best thing about being a cyber professional? It's that privacy is just so new. So right now, it's everything's evolving, and it's all interesting to me. I don't know how else to put it, but it is all interesting to me when I look at things from a cyber privacy perspective, and how that can go. And
wonderful. So I'm gonna change this third question just a little bit for you, because I wanted to be focused on that privacy world. Privacy is a definite top concern in the area. I mean, you can watch the news and see all these data breaches that are happening. No names specific, but we know they're out there, right? So right. So what does privacy being a top concern mean to you?
Privacy being a top concern mean to me. Ideally, I would not want big tech companies like Apple, Spotify, Google, Samsung to collect as much information as they do about an individual. I don't like that there's a huge sale of data in an industry that revolving around that. I feel personally that people should have more consent and more control over the data that they hand over and be more informed. So that's my concern with it.
And that's fair. I'm gonna throw another softball question in there, or in your case, a hockey question. Just the added slap shot in here for you. So you talk about that data control, the request. Every time I look at something that says, this is the data that we're going to use, it's pages upon pages, right? It's the typical you know, quote unquote, here's the terms. Are you going to just agree or are you going to read?
Yep.
How can companies get better? How can companies get better at managing that privacy in that light?
Yeah. So the way to tackle that problem when you're kind of hiding all of the information in long legalese is to essentially post like the summary in the privacy notice and then a longer version of that. So you can kind of skim it and see, okay, they're going to get like these cookies and like for these reasons. And then if you want to click more, you can like drill down and view the details to that. And also not try to confuse your viewers with legalese. So it has to be directly marketed to your audience and not, to be compliant legally.
I'm sure the attorneys are rolling over right now and throwing their shoes at you. Question number 4, what piece of insight do you want to share with other professionals in the field?
Just that privacy is it's an emerging field. It's kind of a baby field right now, but it's only going to grow. And so when I look at things where my agency, like systems that my agency has used, they have your social security number as a unique identifier. You don't need that, so we go in and say, you don't need that. You don't need to collect the email addresses. You don't need to have people's birthdays, that kind of stuff. So if you can look at your programs and your technology and your infrastructure from a privacy first perspective and just try to minimize that, for me, that makes my job a whole lot easier and makes me a lot happier with you. So,
and I would guess that probably makes it less acceptable to data breach.
Correct. That's the idea, because I think as you and I both know, data breaches are going to happen, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So if you implement that privacy from the very beginning instead of after the fact, then the risk of your data being compromised kind of lowers a little bit. Still there, but it's not as much if you're just collecting any and all information for whatever reason. Okay,
so I'm going to shift question number 5 to this. How does privacy fit in with the compliance and risk teams?
That's essentially what I am. I am compliant with, we have to be compliant with the E-Government Act of 2002 and the Privacy Act of 1974. So we go in and we looked for compliance with those, with other authorities, like the OMB memorandums and stuff like that. So we have our own sets of legal compliances that we have to look at, and we follow that. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Yeah, it totally does. I figured it would fall under that. I just wanted to make sure the audience kind of understood that privacy, compliance, risk, they have to be spoken in the same sentence. So wonderful there. Question number 6. And before I get there, everyone, I want everyone to realize that you can't use any type of hockey paraphernalia as the answer to this question, because if people don't realize, Paige is a big hockey player, but question number 6, what is your favorite piece of retro technology that makes you smile?
Oh man, I saw this question and I knew the answer. It has got to be the iPod video. That came out when I was a freshman in high school. I would go up to these cabins in the woods with my parents, and we wouldn't have, the internet or movies really, but I'd have that iPod video and I'd be set for the weekend.
Nice.
The technology.
That's amazing. You didn't want a Zune at the time?
I still think Zune is actually really awesome. I loved that they had you could share a song with a person and have them try it out for like 3, listens or whatever. I thought that was brilliant, but that just never took off.
It never took off. So, well, wonderful. You did it 6 questions in 9 minutes, because just like in hockey, you know when to be concise and score. Here we go. It was epic having you on. Make sure you check out our other episodes and insights on the Cyber Pro podcast. My name is Rick. Stay awesome, my friends.
Thanks, Rick.